Welcome to the parabola benchmark review. We're going to focus on writing equations in factored or vertex form, solving for A. And I'm just going to do 2 in vertex form. And then we're going to do finding missing information from any of the 3 forms. And I'm just going to be focusing on intercept form. You can get the rest from my previous video if you'd like. But these are going to be the main focuses on the benchmark. All right. So we're going to start by writing equations given the vertex and another point. So first, to write your equation, you're going to start with the generic x minus h squared plus k. And then you're going to start filling in what you know. So I know that the vertex is at 3, 1, so it went right 3 up 1. And then I'm going to take it one step further and plug in what I know x and y are because they tell me the other point is 2, 0. So I'm going to replace y with 0. I'm going to replace x with 2. My first step is to always just subtract off whatever that number is. So I get negative 1 equals a times 2 minus 3 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is just 1. So really a equals 1. So I go back up to this equation I wrote right here, and I now know that the a value, which really means the stretch factor on this, is negative 1. So my final equation is y equals negative 1 times x minus 3 squared plus 1. So I know the vertex is at 3, 1, and the other point it contains is the point 2, 0. The axis of symmetry is going through that vertex right here at 3, 1. So there's my axis of symmetry. So to find another point, all I have to do is reflect this point across the axis of symmetry. So it's 1 away over here. I go 1 away on that side, and that's now the point 1, 2, 3, 4, 0. So, does it open up or down? I can clearly see that this parabola is opening. Wow, that is just a horrific looking parabola, but it's opening down, in other words. What's the line of symmetry? Well, it's the x-coordinate of the vertex, which is just 3. And then use symmetry to name another point. Well, I just did that here. I reflected it across. That's the point 4, 0. All right, so I want you to pause the video and try this one on your own. Same idea. So first step, right, y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. That's vertex form. I'm going to plug in what I know. I know the vertex is at negative 1, 2, so that means it really went left 1 and up 2. I know the other point is 0, 0, 4, so I'm going to replace y with 4. And x with 0. First step, get rid of this number over here, so I'm going to subtract 2 to the other side. So I get 2 equals a times 0 plus 1 is 1. So I get 2 equals a. So I'm going to go to my graph and start visually seeing what's happening. So I'm at negative 1, 2 for my vertex, which means right away when you plot that vertex, I want you to draw in a line straight up and down to show your axis of symmetry. So that's my axis of symmetry. All right, and then the other point I know is really the y-intercept, because remember the x-coordinate of every y-intercept is 0, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 is right there. So you can see that there better be a stretch of something bigger than 1 because it's getting narrower. Remember, normally go over 1, up 1. In this case, we go over 1 and up 2. So that makes sense that our a value is 2. So to find our last point, we simply reflect across the axis of symmetry. If it's 1 away here, it's 1 away over there. And I now have a nice visual of what my parabola is going to look like. All right, so my final equation here is y equals 2 times x plus 1 squared plus 2. And it makes sense that it's 2 because remember, normally go over 1, up 1. This one we go over 1 and up 2. Does it open up or down? Well, I can see after sketching it, it opens up. Also, my a value here is positive. That 2 is positive, so it's opening up. The line of symmetry is at x equals negative 1. I've already drawn that in. It just goes through the vertex. And to find another point, that's this red point right here. I reflected it across the axis of symmetry. So that's now the point negative 2, and then positive 1, 2, 3, 4. So negative 2, 4 is the other point I found. All right, on to the next type of example. It's going to ask you to find some information given factored form. So first thing you should always be able to see is that your x-intercepts are at -1 in this case and -3. So -1, whoopsie. The y-coordinate of every x-intercept is 0, so it's -1, 0 and -3, 0. So graphically, let me just get some graph paper. Hold on one second. Just take me a second. Okay, more than a second. Take me about 30 seconds, apparently. Let me just get some graph paper. That's not. Just fast forward through this, me being. Okay, so graphically speaking here, I have a 0 at -1 and -3. To find the y-intercept, you can't use the graph. You have to plug in. Remember, the y-intercept, the x-coordinate is 0. So you take 2 times 0 plus 1 times 0 plus 3. Remember, that really just means you're multiplying all three of these numbers in here. So it's really just going to come down to 2 times 1 times 3. 2 times 1 is 2. Times 3 gives me 6. So the y-intercept is at 0, 6. 6. Next thing I need to do is find the axis of symmetry. Well, directly in the middle of -1 and -3 is -2. So my axis of symmetry is right down the middle here at x equals -2, which really means the x-coordinate of the vertex is -2. So what's nice now is I just take my equation y equals 2 times x plus 1, x plus 3. And I now know that x is -2. So I'm going to replace x with -2. So it's -2 plus 1 and -2 plus 3. So I'm going to solve. It's 2 times -2 plus 1 is -1. -2 plus 3 is +1. 2 times -1 is -2. Times 1 gives me -2. So the vertex is at -2, -2. And there's a nice visual of what my parabola looks like. Remember, if you want to find that matching point here, you just go over 1, 2, 1, 2. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What are you doing, computer? All right, it's done being ridiculous. So there's my matching point. I can draw, you can draw in your nice U. My U's, as usual, are going to be horrific, but I'll get there eventually, guys. Maybe next year. All right, that's good as it's going to get. All right, so what I want you to do is try the next one on your own. I'm going to copy some graph paper while you do that, so go ahead and try that one on your own. Just copy some. All right, so we're going to start on this one. If you're still working on it, keep pausing it. So the x-intercepts are at 2, 0 and -4, 0. So 2, 0 and 1, 2, 3, 4. You get a 4. To find the y-intercept, remember that's really just like you're multiplying all three of these numbers. So it's 0.5 times -2 times 4. Half of -2 is -1 times 4 is -4. Remember the x-coordinate is really 0. To find the axis of symmetry, it's the middle of these two, which is really going to be at -1. Directly in the middle of, so it's 1, 2, 3 away here, 1, 2, 3 away on that side. So there's my axis of symmetry at x equals -1, which means the x-coordinate of the vertex is at -1. So last step, take your equation of 0.5 times x minus 2 and x plus 4. Notice I left the x's alone because I now know that x is -1. So I have 0.5 times -3 times +3. Half of -3 is -1.5 times 3 gives me -4.5. So my vertex is at -1, -1, 2, 3, 4.5. So there's a nice picture of what my U is going to look like. And remember the y-intercept was at -4, which is right there. And there should be a matching point on the other side right there. All right, so the benchmark will be tomorrow. Please make sure you study tonight, and I will see you tomorrow.